Hi everyone. Recently I've been thinking about employee experience and what that means to organisations and to brands. Employee experience is one of the latest buzzwords to hit the management and HR scene. Employee experience is not employee engagement, and I'll talk about that in another video at a later date. But employee experience is something that begins before an employee even starts at an organisation and continues even after they leave the organisation. It's about a perception that an individual has about your brand. There are various elements that are part of employee experience, from pre-recruitment to recruitment to onboarding to the first 90 days, throughout their tenure at your organisation, as they exit, and following that exit. The reason we continue it following that exit is because these people are now brand ambassadors of your organisation, and we want them to continue to have a positive outlook and perception of your brand as they share it with other people. As I said, there's lots of elements that feature in this employee experience. So to learn more, check out the slides that are attached to this video. And for any further questions or support, contact us at redpanda.com. Have a wonderful day.
So what is employee experience and what isn't it? Well, employee experience is an end-to-end way to think about how your employees or potential employees perceive your workplace. So it begins before a person even joins your organization, before they even become an employee of yours. It's about how they perceive your brand, what image you're giving them of your brand and your organization, and giving them an option about whether or not that's somewhere they want to be. Then it continues throughout their life cycle within your company, and it continues once they leave your company. It's also an approach that you need to align to your customer experience. So the whole point of creating positive employee experiences is so that they are giving your brand, your company, your customers the types of behaviors that gives your customers the best customer experience. It's also not something that can be just done by HR. It's a strategy that requires input from lots of different teams and parts of your organization. And the idea is that these strategies need to align with one another so that you are giving a cohesive, a holistic viewpoint of how your company operates, both internally and externally. It's also a way to think about how you're treating the people at your company, how they perceive and communicate about your brand. So it gives you an opportunity to consider, is this working? Are these employees happy here? Are they engaged in their work? Are they happy to promote my business to other people and potential candidates to come into your company? The nice thing about employee experience and a lot of employee processes is that it's an opportunity to co-create these things with the people in your company. So often when strategies are designed, they are designed at the top and then they're fed down to the employees, they're filtered down. But actually, the best way to create something that works for the people who use it is to involve the people who use it. Employee experience isn't a one and done. It's not something you can just create and then be done. It's something that is an ongoing piece of culture, something that you need to continue to cultivate and give time and effort to ensure that it remains positive. Employee experience isn't a replacement for employee engagement. This terminology has come onto the scene and it looks as though in some places that it's superseded employee engagement, particularly given that employee engagement hasn't really shifted the needle in quite a long time. But employee engagement is something that could potentially come out of some positive employee experiences, and I'll talk about that at a later date. It's not a well-defined construct at this stage, so it's something that you have to come up with your own definition for what you believe is a positive employee experience and what fits the culture at your company and the people within it. Unfortunately, it's not something you can ignore if you want to have a successful organisation. It's something that you need to spend time thinking about to ensure that you give your employees the best experience and that you are creating a positive outcome for your customers. So what is employee engagement and how is that different from employee experience? Well, employee engagement, much like employee experience, doesn't have an agreed definition, so it's different wherever you look, but engagement is something that is potentially an outcome of positive employee experiences, but it doesn't have to be. So if an employee has a positive experience at work, for example, they have a positive interaction with a manager or a teammate, that might encourage them to feel more engaged in their work. Perhaps they got some positive feedback, perhaps they got some resources that they needed to be able to complete their work or continue with what they're doing. That might help them to have a period of engagement at work. But it may also be that they have a passion for the subject that they're working on, or for completing a goal, or achieving a status of some kind, and those things can help to engage employees too. So it's an emotional state, really, that comes from some kind of intrinsic connection to your work. It arises when people feel that that contribution that they're making matters to them, or to the people around them, or to their organisation. So when do you need to apply positive employee experiences? Well, it happens across the whole employee life cycle, from pre-recruitment to post-exit. Pre-recruitment is thinking about how your company is perceived to people who may want to work there in the future. So what is your brand saying to people out there in the marketplace? Then you move into recruitment stage. So how easy is it for people to apply to work at your company? What's the interview process like, etc. Then you move into onboarding. So when people come into your company, is it everything they thought it would be from that recruitment phase? Then you move into the first 90 days. This is a period of time where we say that people are new to the company. They probably need a little bit more support than they might need in the future following those 90 days. So we try to have more frequent check-ins and just ensure that they're continuing that positive experience. Throughout the tenure, there's a whole series of things that you need to do to ensure that people feel as though still a place that they want to be, that they're connected to what that company's doing, and that they want to continue to work there. Then when people decide to leave, you need to spend some time understanding, well, why do they want to leave? What happened there? And then at post-exit, you want them to feel that they're leaving the company with a positive experience behind them, feeling as though they want to speak positively about your brand and your company. So you know that there are all these stages that you need to apply these positive employee experiences, but what are they? What kind of questions do you need to ask in order to ensure that you're doing this well? Well, we'll continue with that now. So this slide might look a little messy, and that's done on purpose. Employee experiences aren't necessarily simple. There are lots of different things that you need to consider and ways in which you can potentially engage and give your employees that positive experience at work. So we're going to go through some of those now, and lots of the questions that you can see on this slide we're going to talk through. And these are ways in which you can check in with how you're treating your employees at work and what you could potentially do to make that experience even more positive. So we'll start with the pre-recruitment phase. So there's a series of questions that it's a good idea to ask yourself to see if you're giving these people the best experience that you can. So first of all, you want to think, well, how is our brand perceived by potential employees? And just remember that every single person out there is a potential employee. They could come from anywhere. So just think about, who is it I'm trying to attract, and how can I do that in the best way possible? Think about where your brand is actually out there. It might not just be, your website. It could be your social media outlets. It could be previous employees have left feedback on Glassdoor. There could be a whole manner of ways in which people are seeing aspects of your brand, and you want to ensure that they're all positive. So make sure you do your research. Think about getting more granular about what these job adverts that you're putting out, either on the internet or in local media, what do they look like? Are they engaging? Are they explaining the job in a positive light? Are they thinking about the precise skills that you need to ensure that you're going to meet on your customers' requirements? And lastly, consider, what are past employees saying about the workplace? This is what we're saying about this end-to-end thing. When people leave the company, if they are saying good things about your brand, that is going to help to recruit new people into your business, which is one of the main reasons that we look at this exit process. So when it comes to the recruitment process, you need to make sure that everything that you say in those recruitment adverts are how your company is going to be, because very quickly, if an employee comes into your company and everything that they've read in that initial advert or job description isn't what they're experiencing, they're gonna suss that out. That people aren't stupid, so they're very quickly going to realize that it's not what it said on the tin. So what you've got to do is make sure that you're honest and upfront about how the culture works, how the company works, how the role works, so that when people come in and start to talk to you about that they feel as though it's a truthful process. The language is important. The way that you communicate with people is going to reflect the kind of people that you get in, and it's going to either make them feel as though they want to apply, or it's going to turn them off. Ensuring that the strategy for your recruitment matches the requirements of your business is key. Again, this shouldn't just be an HR thing. This is something that you should spend time looking at. What do we need across the business? What's the whole business purpose? What's the vision? Where are we going? How can we make sure that the people that we're bringing on board are aligned to this and are passionate about that? Does it align with your consumer strategy? It's all well and good having people on board who are great people, but if they don't understand how to meet your customers' needs, then you're not bringing the right people on board. There has to be an alignment there. So when a new employee comes on board, quite understandably, they're probably nervous. They're probably quite anxious. They're about to meet a whole new group of people. They don't understand anything about your company, or very little. They don't know how anything works. So you need to make sure that they have what they need to help them to work effectively. So do they have the IT equipment they need? Do they have simple things like how to, directions on how to get around your company, where the bathrooms are, what to do at lunchtime? Is there a dress down day on a Friday? Things that help people to feel as though they're part of that culture and that they are being welcomed in will really help to improve the onboarding process. New recruits can struggle with, as I said, sort of integrating themselves and feeling as though they're part of the company. So having someone to support them through that process can be really useful. So a buddy system is a really helpful way to make that so. These can be anyone from their team, somebody perhaps outside of their team that they wouldn't normally mix with, that can just be there to ask any questions if they need to show them around, to come get them for lunch, things to just help them feel that they're supported in some way. Make sure that you introduce new employees to their colleagues. There's so many times where I've seen people come into businesses and they're just sort of sat down at their desk and no one thinks to actually show them around and introduce them to everyone. And sometimes people come over and introduce themselves, but that always feels a bit like an afterthought. So make sure you show people around and just integrate them into that company. A team lunch can be a really good way to get people feeling like they're part of that team. So arranging something doesn't have to be fancy, something in the office, just getting people together so that they can be part of those conversations and see how things usually, operate at the company. The first 90 days is the period where we usually say that people are probably not quite up to speed yet. By the end of that 90 days, we usually say, people have pretty much everything they need to be able to operate well. It might be another few months before they're operating at full capacity, but during that period, they've usually learned enough. They know their way around, they know who's who, they know, how their job generally works during that, at the end of that 90 days. But during that 90 days, they need quite a lot of support to get up to speed. So there are a few things that it's important to do during that period. Consider, have new employees settled in? Are they feeling as though it's everything that they thought that it would be at the company? Do they have the resources that they need to get the job done? Are they getting along with people? Are there any issues that are happening, either with managers or with teammates? Are there difficulties that they're coming across? Is the company, the culture, the job, is it everything that they thought it would be? And if it's not, why not? And what can you do to bridge that gap for them? Just generally figuring out, are they happy? And are they performing the way that you hope that they would? And if they're not, well, what's going wrong? Because people are usually at their most engaged during that first period in a job. So if that's not working well, there's definitely something awry, and it needs further research. Throughout their time at their company, employees need to feel as though the work that they're doing is connected to the experience that you want to provide. They need to understand what your brand stands for, what its mission and vision is, beyond making a profit for the company, because every company wants to make profit, but that's not what engages people, that's not what drives people. There needs to be a purpose underneath that employees feel as though they want to get out of bed every day to do. And then you need to make sure that that's connected to the experience that your customers are receiving. So the behaviors that their employees are showing you throughout their time at your company is giving you the experience that you want your customers to have to give them the best brand experience. And then on top of that, you need to make sure that employees personally are having a positive time at work. They have the work that engages them. They have all of the resources they need to do the work well, to do a good job, that they have some kind of ownership over the company, that they have an opportunity to be autonomous, to have a sense of that they are part of something, that their contribution matters. So you need to spend some time thinking about, well, what does a typical day look like for these people on the ground? What are they doing every day? And is that making them happy? Would that make me happy? Try to put yourself in their shoes. Find some empathy with the people that you're managing and working with. And then lastly, you've got to make sure that you're recognizing people for work well done, and giving them rewards where rewards are due. But also making sure that people have that opportunity and that chance to grow and develop. So that's about providing training opportunities, chances to learn. It doesn't have to be a training session. It could be watching someone else work. It could be lunch and learn sessions, that you operate with in your company. It could be the chance to work with other teams and departments. It could be a whole manner of things that you do to help those employees to grow and to feel valued in their role. When employees leave a company, that's a sign that there's something wrong. So you need to figure out what that is. And a really great way to do that is to use an exit interview. So you spend some time talking to people about their experience at the company. What are the reasons that they want to leave? What could you have done differently? What can you do differently? And then you can use that information to help you to not only support that employee with that transition, but also to better your company for the future. The reason we support employees with that transition is so that they leave the company with a positive perception of your brand, and they talk to other people about that brand in a good way, that they are encouraging other people to want to come and work for you. That's our overview of employee experience and what that employee experience lifecycle looks like. So what's next? Well, if you'd like more insights or support from us, contact us at Red Ponder or connect with me on RSG_consult on Twitter. I'm always talking about new ways to engage people, new ways to look at things that are happening in the HR world and the business world. And thank you for listening. We're looking forward to continuing the conversation with you. Thank you.